Thank you very much for coming today. This is quite exciting for us. We actually have a new product to talk about, which is fantastic. Obviously, the Norton brand is very well known, very strong in endpoint protection, protecting devices. But we actually have something totally different today. So very much around Wi-Fi privacy. So yeah, very exciting for us. One thing, before I actually get into the product, what we did, we always love to get some customer insight about what people are doing, how they view technology, how they use different services. So what we did was we actually went out and we did a survey. This survey was done across 9 countries just to give us a bit of a global view, some of our bigger markets as to how each market compares and how people use Wi-Fi. So yeah, 9 markets, roughly 1,000 people per country. So Australia, the survey sample was 1,028, if I remember correctly. Again, just to give us some insight as to people's perceptions about Wi-Fi, the practices, how they use Wi-Fi, just to give us a bit of insight as to what they're doing, do they consider it secure, how they connect, devices they connect. So that's very much what the report was about. And we'll just talk through some of the results that we saw from this, just before we get into the product, help give you an insight as to essentially what we're trying to solve for our customers. And that's a big part of it is understanding where that need exists. We obviously did a lot of research around this. We believe there was a need in the market, and obviously this helped solidify, what was the solution we could take to market. So just looking in terms of Wi-Fi usage, the data we've got up here is the Australia-based data. So 84% of people are using public Wi-Fi to connect to the internet. The devices they're using, mobile is by far the highest. 67% they're connecting through Wi-Fi with mobile. The other obviously common ones, laptop, tablet, and then we're seeing some smaller numbers around other devices, whether it's like wearables, that kind of thing. Though 2% are unsure, and there's 14% which respondents said they never use Wi-Fi. The results are fairly consistent when you look globally with the other markets that we surveyed, so that gives an insight. So globally, come across 86%, average people connecting through public Wi-Fi, so 84% was fairly consistent globally. You can see ultimately the usage is very high, public Wi-Fi. And that's something that we wanted to gauge. Obviously in this market here, mobile data is quite good, but still a lot of people are connecting through public Wi-Fi. One thing I will point out, when we get into the actual product, we are launching with a mobile offering, and one of the reasons for that was very much the connection through mobile devices is by far the highest that we're seeing, so it made sense for us to launch with a mobile offering. Excuse me, I hope my voice does last the duration. I have been a bit unwell, so going okay, but if it gets a bit crackly, I understand why. In terms of sharing of information over public Wi-Fi, 78% responded and said that they are actually sharing information through public Wi-Fi. These were some of the areas: connecting through social media accounts, email, sharing photos, videos, connecting to bank or other financial sites were very common actions. Now, all these are potentially activities that put people's data at risk. We're talking unsecured Wi-Fi networks. Potentially, people can be hacked with their data actually stolen while they're connecting through these Wi-Fi services. So it just gives you an insight as to what people are doing. Obviously, social media, email is a common thing. But again, the usage of Wi-Fi and actually putting data or connecting to services through there is very high at 78%. The other one we put up here, now this is very new, this is very much around the Internet of Things and how people are connecting. Out of our survey base of 1,028, we only had very low usage. It was under 100 that were connecting through home connected devices. But we wanted to put this one in and actually test it, because as these home connected devices start to expand more, obviously the Internet of Things continue to expand, people connecting through public Wi-Fi are potentially putting at risk where some of these connection to some of these devices is not being protected. So, like if someone is connecting through their home entry system, which may be their home door lock, and that is not an encrypted connection, or potentially people can actually see how to access someone's house. So there is risk associated with these, and we just, obviously it's very early days, but we wanted to actually see if people were connecting through public Wi-Fi into these services as well. What we saw here in Australia is, in terms of the perception of how safe Wi-Fi is, so in Australia 62% of people believe public Wi-Fi is safe. So an unprotected Wi-Fi network is essentially, the data is exposed that people are sharing or connecting through that. So 63% consider it is a safe connection. Obviously there's a misconception about, how safe they really are through these services. So 37% obviously did indicate that they consider it unsafe. So the awareness is generally low in terms of the risks associated with this. And look, it is quite hard for people, given that a lot of people are connecting through their mobile device and through apps. Even if they're looking for a secure connection like a HTTPS, so it's got SSL protection, through mobile apps you can't actually see that anyway, so it's very hard for people to actually, if it is truly secure or not. I think a lot of people assume that a lot of these services are, but obviously they're not. Again, how we compared globally, so we're at 63% globally, 57% consider that connecting through public Wi-Fi is safe. Just on that as well, some of our own telemetry, because through the mobile, the Android network, we have App Advisor, which is our mobile insight data. Through that data, we can actually see that of the most popular apps used, Android apps within Australia, of those that transmit personal or sensitive information, 14% of those are not being encrypted, so not using SSL. So clearly, there is data being shared through apps that we commonly use that is essentially open on these networks, and people just don't have any idea that's actually happening. So this is who can tell the difference between a secure and unsecure public Wi-Fi. What we saw, 34% could actually tell if it was a secure or unsecure network, meaning that essentially 66% or 2/3 of the population had no idea whether it was actually secure, or just had no idea. So clearly, the understanding around what is a secure network doesn't actually exist. Again, looking globally, so the global number come out at 35%, so we are fairly consistent in terms of the understanding about what is secure and unsecure. I was a bit surprised by this number because obviously, people, if they're putting in their the key to connect to a network, or they can see the padlock on a particular Wi-Fi network, but most people still don't quite understand what is actually secure and unsecure. So when it comes to, obviously the awareness, and then we start looking at where the concerns actually exist. So once people are aware that it's potentially not safe, what are they concerned about? And what we're seeing, someone accessing my financial information, so we saw 84% highlighted that was obviously a major concern for them connecting through free Wi-Fi. People stealing information that's been entered through Wi-Fi, 83%. So can everyone actually read that? Infecting my system with malware, 83%. Someone accessing my personal photos and videos, 74%. Like all these things, the fear of the potential of what could happen is quite high, but obviously the fear is not aligning with the awareness of where these risks actually exist through public Wi-Fi. So obviously this is key. So this, and I think this comes back to the awareness, or raising the awareness, and obviously that's where you guys come into this. This is about education, so to take where they have concerns and start raising the awareness around where people need to be protecting themselves, and that an unsecured network in itself is not a safe place to be sharing information online. We actually did some testing against different scenarios, whether, how they view, someone using your login credentials, how does that compare against someone having intimate photo of yourself. So it's clear when you compare these that obviously losing information online, like through a public Wi-Fi, is where people, fear the most. So, having my social media accounts hacked using a coffee shop Wi-Fi, to 66%, compared to only 34% not having Wi-Fi access. So clearly, again, this fear of being hacked and losing information through like a Wi-Fi service is clearly of high concern for users. Who's responsible? We asked the question, like, who do they consider as responsible if someone was hacked? Interestingly, only half the respondents think that they are responsible in this situation, and that potentially, the Wi-Fi provider or the site they're logged into, some people consider them to be ultimately responsible. Key thing is, people are connecting through many different sites now. So people travel around the world, coffee shops, hotels. People are going to connect through multiple places, so they have to be proactive to help protect themselves. So obviously, just relying on everyone else to protect them is not something they can rely on. Again, this is something we want to raise the awareness around, so that they're aware of the risks and that they should be being proactive in what they do to protect themselves. Again, how the numbers globally come out roughly the same, 49% compared to our 48. So it's everyone globally reasonably thinks the same way. When we start looking at the best ways for people to protect themselves when they're on public Wi-Fi, clearly come out that there is a lack of understanding around this. The highest response was, I don't know. So clearly a lot of people have no idea how to protect themselves when they're on public Wi-Fi. 20% come out and obviously identify VPN as a source of protecting themselves through this, which is good. Looking for sites that use HTTPS, again, which is good, but as I mentioned before, a lot of people using apps can't actually identify whether there is SSL protecting the data they're transferring. So it is, in a lot of instances, it's hard to actually confirm that is being protected as well. Obviously, they have to be in a browser to actually see if it is on a secure connection. Then you look at some of these other responses around, some 16% responded saying that connecting in a trusted site, so like the airport or the hotel, is going to be safe just being on there. So obviously, again, clearly there's a lack of understanding about how people, what they need to do to protect themselves on these networks. So of those, when asked a question about who's actually using a VPN service when they're connecting through Wi-Fi, what we saw, so in Australia, 18%, that's all that were regularly using a VPN service. So it is relatively low. 29% never heard of a VPN service, when we tested this survey population. So again, roughly 30% have no idea. Because obviously there is a lack of awareness around the technology. In most cases, people don't even want to understand the technology. They just want to be protected. And then 53% indicated that they're obviously aware of VPN, but they choose not to actually to use it. Again, our numbers are fairly consistent with the other markets. It's interesting that in South America, usage of VPN is a lot higher than other markets. Globally, about 20%, which is fairly comparable to our 18%. Of those that aren't or choose not to use a VPN service, we then asked a question around what was the core reason as to why they're not using a VPN service to protect themselves on these public Wi-Fis. I don't know how to use a VPN was the top response, so 38%. Again, fairly consistent to the other markets with 40%. Clearly, a lot of people view this as a technical product, or that they need some level of technical expertise to understand how VPN works. And what we'll see is what we're delivering is very simple. You know, turn it on, it's basically working. So we're trying to overcome this issue of people not using it just because they don't really understand the technology. Obviously, some of the other responses are, you know, it's not necessarily 12%. So these are fairly low. Obviously, what we're trying to address is just not understanding the technology. All right. So Norton Wi-Fi Privacy. So this is what we're calling the new offering. Again, this come out of really, I suppose, trying to understand the market. And obviously, key focus for the Norton product, the Norton brand, is protecting our users. Our technology is very much built around protecting the device, the information that's on the device, people's identity. But clearly, in terms of the technology, as people are transmitting information over these unsecured networks, obviously it become much harder to protect them in that kind of situation. So it's very much the information as it's transmitting is where they're being exposed, and potentially if they are connecting through a coffee shop, a hotel, or an airport that's not being protected, well, then their data is at risk. So we thought, well, there's an opportunity to go in there. Now there is a lot of VPN providers out there, a lot of unknown brands, and obviously bringing a trusted brand into this space was, we thought, a benefit to our customers, because trust is a big thing in security. So that's why we had a hard look at this offering and chose to launch it. Again, looking as I mentioned before, what we are launching is a mobile-based offering. So right now it is the Android and iOS versions of this. And as I mentioned before, we are launching this because mobile is by far, it's essentially become the primary device of people connecting through public Wi-Fi. And in terms of the numbers, the growth of mobile usage is going through the roof. You know, 2.7 billion people own a smartphone by 2019. Roughly 36 apps that the average person have on their smartphone. Over 50% smartphone users, 70% of tablet users connect through public Wi-Fi. Obviously, in the last few years, there's been a lot of Wi-Fi only tablets out there, so there is a lot of people looking for Wi-Fi hotspots to be able to connect these devices. And nearly 80% of consumer surveys believe using public Wi-Fi will lead to identity theft. So there was some level of awareness around the risks there. Again, mobile is hard. Some of these numbers are staggering. You know, 1.5 million apps available, over 150 billion apps that have been downloaded to date. In terms of the Internet of Things, this explosion that's going to happen. So by 2020, we're expecting 50 billion connected devices out there. And again, by 2020, we're expecting 433 million Wi-Fi hotspots to be out there. So clearly, Wi-Fi is popular, it's being utilised a lot of people are connecting to it. So definitely we saw a need that we need to give our customers a level of protection when they're connecting on these networks. Again, it's really just expanding our protection network beyond the device into the transmission of the information that's being shared online. With these changes, like a lot of what I've been talking about in terms of unsecured is obviously people being hacked, potentially losing their identity, having their login credentials compromised, Wi-Fi hacking. A lot of this is the threat. From this potential financial consequences of credit card being used or bank account being hacked, etc. But there's another component to this, and this is really around business. Customer insight is a powerful thing, so a lot of businesses want to know what everyone's doing. So obviously in terms of ad tracking, location sharing, browsing history, this is all data that's of interest, and so a lot of businesses are gathering this data and using the power of big data to give that customer insight. So this is another area. So you've got the hacking component to it here, but also, I suppose, the privacy of people and what they're doing online and how much people ultimately want to share is the other area that's of interest for people. What we did, so roughly about 12 months ago, we did do a pilot around this offering just to see, what would happen, how the interest was, how people used it, and the pilot was quite successful. So what we did notice is that in terms of uninstall rates, it was less than half of the typical new app, so people could see the benefit of using the service. And with hotspot usage, people were using more Wi-Fi hotspots because I think that, obviously once we gave them the sense of protection of sharing the information over these networks, they're more inclined to use it, which is a good thing. People want to be connected. I think of people travelling when they're going to a different country, using different Wi-Fi hotspots. So if they have that sense of protection, they are more inclined to use it and feel confident to do the normal activities they want to do online. So from this pilot, we felt that there was absolutely need and that we could launch it. So that was about 12 months ago. Given the success of that, we did choose to launch it. So we are obviously just launching it right now. This was just some of the feedback that we got from some of the users who were part of the pilot. Generally quite positive feedback about Norton coming out with some new technology, different space. One thing I wanted to highlight here, and I think which was one of the key reasons why we chose to bring this product to market, was around the trust. We see here, great idea from a trusted company, about time someone I trust made one. So I think trust was a key component of why there was a need for Norton product in this space. Again, there's a number of different VPN services, but when you look at it, there's a lot of unknown providers out there that when we're talking security, trust is a big thing. So given that the Norton brand does have a high level of trust, it does make sense that this is very much part of essentially what core security, because it's going beyond the device. So I think trust was a key thing for us to make this decision. As I mentioned, this is very much moving beyond the device, because obviously our Norton security offering that's out there now is very much an endpoint security offering for PC, Mac, mobile devices. So this is very much taking us into that information, or the sharing of information once it's left the device, coming and going. So we want to protect that data because it's obviously it's at risk for users, and it's one area that we can help protect our customers from these threats. So it is a VPN service, so it is encrypting the traffic that's coming and going from the devices. It's a cool thing. And obviously that important information around login details, whether it's email, social media, even photos, videos that people are sharing, it is obviously encrypting all that data that's being shared. So people can feel secure whether they're connecting through the hotel they're staying at, or airport, coffee shop, that data is being protected using obviously high level encryption to protect that data. In terms of target market, customer need, key benefit, primary differentiation, we looked at this. Travellers are obviously big users, whether you're travelling overseas, you may want to connect through your hotel, coffee shop. So there's a key need there. And what we'll see, and I'll show a bit more data, there is multiple server locations around the globe. So if you are travelling to the US or to the UK, there is server located in those. So obviously latency is potentially a big issue with VPN, but all the major markets around the world, there is a server there, so that latency is not an issue. So people who are travelling and using this service to protect themselves, they can use it knowing they're connected. And again, this is about keeping their data safe, their login credentials, anything they're sharing, they might be doing work in through their devices. So this is about protecting that. Obviously, the benefit, it is about connecting these digital connections. People surf, do all their common activities. So this is very much protecting those. Again, beyond the device for us, we're protecting what's on the device, the threats that are trying to attack the device, but this is very much about the connections that are going to and from the device that require a different level of protection. Obviously VPN, that encryption is scrambling the data, so if it is being intercepted, no one can ultimately read it. Differentiation, given that there is a number of VPN services out there, what does Norton bring to the table that's different to anyone else? Look, it is a trusted brand, that's a big thing. People feel more comfortable using a known brand when it comes to security. But aside from that, so this service, when you look at a lot of the other ones, ads, so they monetize through ads. There is no ads here. There is no data limits, so people can use as much data as they want to transmit, so there is no limitation around data usage. As with all our Norton products, we do give a 60-day money-back guarantee, so if people are unhappy with the service in any way, they can get a refund with that. Yeah, I think, given that there's not a lot of players that are known in the space, I think taking that Norton brand in there is obviously going to be a key differentiator for us.
Will it support torrents?
Will it support torrents? It is encrypting the traffic, so if people are doing that, it'll obviously encrypt the traffic. So that's it. It's how people want to use it is totally up to them. Obviously, we're building secure infrastructure for people to be safe with the activities they're doing online. But yeah, some people choose to, do different things with it.
If you get a request from the FBI or ASIO to see what people are doing, are you obliged to divulge that information? And is there a version for PCs and Macs?
I'll come to that. So first of all, look, we don't support putting backdoors into the product to expose data. This is about creating technology to protect people. If there's unsecure versions of it, well then we've got other issues or hacking that's potentially,
Do you have a warrant canary, for example? I mean, if you look at all the torrent freaks list of VPNs, they do reviews and presumably they'll add yours to the list, and they ask all these really detailed questions about warrant canaries and how long you keep the logs for it. I mean, it's all kind of well known to the VPN community, and people want to know the same answers from you.
We don't carry any of the log information, so we're not holding any information for this actual service.
Privacy, we take privacy seriously, so we don't log data at all.
But if you get a court request, I mean, I'm not trying to be picky. It's the same thing that people ask other VPN services. If you get a court request to look at my traffic, do you have to comply? Presumably you do.
We do.
We do, but we don't have the logging data to share.
But
That's
you don't have that data in the first place.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we can't.
Which is the thing, we're not capturing the data to monetize from it. So
Or to monitor it.
You'll see in the video demo what we're actually capturing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just
So you see
a
it.
different question then is, obviously you're using encryption. Encryption relies on keys. Who's holding what keys?
Look,
Because if you're holding the keys, then they can be subpoenaed, potentially, in some kind of scenario that Alex is describing. It's probably not going to happen to most of us, but there are people who use VPNs for evil and not for good, or people who use them for purposes that are good but not acceptable to governments, and all sorts of other things. So, what are, obviously encryption only relies on keys. It's about who holds the keys. This is why Apple gets a big shit, because they don't hold the keys.
yeah.
So,
Well, obviously the user, because it's a simplified experience, so people aren't obviously entering keys themselves. So, but in terms of where they're stored, we can ask that question. I'll have to take that to product management to understand how they do that. So,
I mean, you'll find other people like Torrent Freak will ask you the same questions.
yeah. No, it's fair
It's
point.
not just us.
That's beyond my technical capability. So we'll happily ask that question and get that feedback. Yep. Oh, sorry, I didn't answer your other question. There is, as I mentioned, given the usage, we wanted to come out with the mobile offering as soon as we can. But yes, we do plan on releasing a truly multi-device offering, so it'll cover PC, Mac, and the mobile devices, so that'll be a little bit later.
Will that be integrated into Norton Internet Security, so it's one, or it's going to be two separate?
Right now, it's not being integrated into the product, but we will build a truly multi-device product that'll integrate within like Norton accounts. so they can manage it through there. So.
And just one other thing, what's the reason why it took a year between the pilot finishing and the product launching? I mean, presumably testing and stuff. But
Well, it is. Again, given that we are the largest security company in the world, it's critical that what we release is secure and that we're protecting customers. So there is a lot of testing, a lot of stuff that goes on in the background. So we didn't want to we got it to market as soon as we could, but there is a lot of effort to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
no worries, I understand. Just curious.
Yeah. No, that's.
Sorry, it's going to be the Alex You mentioned latency and multiple global locations. Do you have data on the latency? Because every VPN product adds latency to connection. I've never seen one that actually makes a connection better or faster.
No, and there's always going to be a sacrifice because you've got to.
Data on what level of sacrifice would be better take.
Well, the thing is, it is a new service, so there's obviously not a lot of traffic there, so we'll have to monitor how that is. We have been doing some testing ourselves locally.
And you have points of presence in Australia, right?
Yes.
Pardon?
You have points of presence
Yes.
localized.
Yes.
So I think as we see uptake of the product, we'll see more of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because whatever, I've used a number of different VPN products and tried them, and I've tossed every single one of them because I'm just impatient. I don't want to waste that much the extra time to go through.
Well, the good thing is, it's very easy to turn it on and off within the product. So if you're just streaming some video, obviously you don't need to encrypt that traffic if you're just watching something locally. So you can easily turn it off. But when you are doing your secure connections, or you need that obviously time. The everyday stuff, I didn't notice any impact whatsoever. A couple of weeks ago I was in Singapore, connected through the Singapore service, worked perfectly, didn't notice any issues whatsoever. So from our testing so far, it seems to work quite well.
Can I use it to mask my location?
Look, how people use it is up to them, but yes, you can choose which location you want to connect
I can
globally.
watch Netflix on my phone now. But if
That's what
theoretically.
yes, theoretically, if that's what you want to do. Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah, and we'll see that. We'll get a couple of screenshots for you.
Handy for YouTube because there's content in US YouTube that is not available in Australia, like episodes of Star Trek and stuff. So it's handy to be
Give it a go.
uploaded to the US.
Use that example. Oh, in France.
That's it, all fresh.
All right. As mentioned, this is very much an expansion of the Norton ecosystem. Our mobile device protection right now is very much around app risks. This is our mobile insight and the app advisor that's within the Android offering. Anti-phishing, anti-malware, anti-theft features, contacts backup. So where that gap was very much the connections that data is exposed. So the Wi-Fi privacy is giving our customers that protection of that data that's being shared if they're on unprotected networks. And that's it. From what we've seen, the perception of Wi-Fi, is it safe or not? A lot of people have no idea. Usage of services that are going to protect them is relatively low, even though they fear about what potentially happen. Using this obviously just does what they need. It's going to protect those connections. So we definitely feel that it sort of gave us a more complete picture around protection for customers, very much protecting the organization. This is a bit of a look at the product, what it looks like now. Now, actually, I should mention that instead of trying to go and download it now, Debbie has access, so that you can download, because it is a paid service, so that you can download a copy and use it yourself later. So as people are leaving, we'll hand out those cards, so you can go and download it yourself and give it a go. Obviously the Wi-Fi security using encryption. Now this is not just Wi-Fi, it will also encrypt mobile traffic as well. So if you are just using your a 4G service, it will encrypt that traffic as well. Obviously more at risk is unprotected Wi-Fi networks, so we'll encrypt that. And you can see it shows a map of where you're connecting through. So here there's on the other tab here, you can actually choose where you are connecting. So for the average user who doesn't want to vary where they're connecting, they just have the auto select, which is by default. It will connect to obviously the closest service to ensure that there is no latency issues with people connecting. Again, I gave a run in Singapore a couple of weeks ago, and it automatically picked up the Singapore service when I was there. I had no issues. So yeah. No. You'll see it in there. So I think we've got the list of ones in there. So major markets like US, Canada, Australia,
Hong Kong?
Singapore. No, I don't think Hong Kong's on there. So throughout Europe, you've got UK, France, Germany, Netherlands, Italy.
And if we're in China and we switch it on, does it let us get through the firewall?
You have to go and give it a go.
Some do it, some don't. Well, I'm in China in a couple of weeks, so I'll try that then.
Yeah, please do. I'd love to get your feedback. Yeah. The other feature that's in there is ad blocking for those that don't want to have obviously the tracking, a lot of the tracking that's happening online. As I mentioned before, in terms of the big data and people monitoring what we're doing, there is an ad blocking feature in there. It's amazing how many ads trackers there are out there.
Does that block ads inside of apps that you're
Yes.
so it's not just for the web, there's apps as well.
My count is up to 990. I think it went nuts in Singapore, but yeah, it's amazing how many it's blocking.
And you may answer this in a future slide, but does one purchase let me put that purchase onto all my iOS devices or all my Android devices?
This is one. It's a one device, one in.
And so does it, and you're probably going to answer it, but does it pre-fill the VPN section in the settings of iOS and Android and show me the little VPN symbol so I don't have to fill that myself?
It does. Like I'm using Android and it does, and I saw Debbie's and it's
It says VPN in the
Yes.
Yeah. So it's filling it in for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, which is what you'd expect. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So yeah, so the region, so if you are travelling overseas and there's content you wanted to get in Australia, obviously you can connect through the Australian service. Equally it goes the other way, so the ad blocking and obviously the connection itself, and you will see where it's connecting. So if you're connecting here, like in Australia, it will generally pop up as like Sydney, Melbourne. Again, it's sort of monitoring the traffic to which is going to give you the best service.
Just on the ads, is it blocking the kind of, I guess, the digital breadcrumbs you leave behind in terms of the tracking of your usage around online, or is it actually blocking, say, you go onto a landing page or a website, or block the ads that you see traditionally on that website?
No, it's more what's on the actual device, as I understand it. So we can actually double check that as well. Yeah.
So yeah, it's blocking what tracks you, right?
The trackers, yeah.
Mark, does it block cookies?
Cookies. Let me ask that question.
It does say from privacy from ad tracking cookies there, so presumably that is cookies.
I can't read this.
Where have you seen that?
Top
yeah.
of the slide, yeah.
Let's see how it distinguishes an ad cookie from something else that's beyond one. But we'll ask that question.
No.
So
It's not ad track.
For ad tracking.
ad tracking.
Yeah.
Just a bit more what it looks like in the functionality. As I mentioned, it will when you connect to an unsecure network, it will automatically start because there's a automatically connect feature here, so that when you do jump onto an unprotected Wi-Fi network, it will automatically start to protect you. If you have that turned off, you can have a warning pop up to say you are actually connecting to an unsecure network, so we'll warn you. There's the easy on-off button if you don't want to run it. If you're running video and you don't want to have any latency issues around that, you can just turn it off. So there is that manual on-off. As mentioned, so there's the auto select, so it'll do it for you. For the average user, unsure about which tunnel to protect them through, it'll just do it for you. Again, it's trying to optimize the speed of the traffic so it gets to the most secure, the most efficient one there. And the ad trackers, yeah.
So if it auto good that it turns on automatically when you hit Unsecured network. So it's like connect the packets and it protects you while the packets. Then I go back home and I'm on my secure network because I've automatically switch off as well.
Yes, it will. Yeah, because if I've been switching between networks, so it's up to me if I'm on the mobile network whether I want to encrypt that or not. So it will turn on, and then if I want to, because that's the thing, even when I do my banking through mobile, I will generally turn it on as well, because obviously SSL connections will encrypt the data, but obviously the header on the packets, you can still identify where someone is or who they're trying to connect to. So as you'll see, we'll run this video where it actually basically hides all the data, so both the header and also the content. Just a couple more things here. So within the notification center, you can also switch it on and off and configure everything there. So it's just a usability feature. There is help and FAQ built within there as well, so people can access that information. Quite easy, but again, a lot of people don't need to go into the detail. It'll just work automatically for them. Availability, so it's available in 10 languages. You know, that's not so relevant for this market here. 43 countries, it's accessible. Obviously Australia and New Zealand are in there, so it is quite widely available. So yeah, as mentioned, mobile only offering at this point, so it is Google Play and through the Apple App Store. There is a free trial to get going. Obviously Google and Apple have different trial periods that they use, so Google's 7-day, Apple's 30-day. Sorry, the pricing, because it's just been loaded up there, it is like globally $29.99 US was the price that's being set. Obviously Google, Apple will load that prices that are in there, but it should roughly come out to $3.50 to $4 per month for a user to use that, and that's one device. That obviously has a 60-day money-back guarantee. There's the system requirements: Android 4.04 later, iOS 7 later. It is a one device, yes. All right, now we're. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, no, feel free to go through the rest.
Well, it's actually just a video, just because originally we're going to have a couple of security guys come in and actually run a demo in here. And so they couldn't be here. So what we did, we filmed the guys using this. They're at a coffee shop for free Wi-Fi, just to see how easy it is to capture data when people are connected to public Wi-Fi, and once someone is actually using the Wi-Fi privacy product, what actually is visible through these trackers. So we'll kick off this video just so you can actually have a look and see how the technology works.
Public Wi-Fi hotspots are everywhere, but how secure are they? We're going to show you how a complete stranger can eavesdrop on your internet access from your mobile device when you're connected to a public Wi-Fi hotspot.
So on your device, I will join the network called free Wi-Fi. And while you do that, I'm going to ask you, do you use free Wi-Fi when you travel, airports, hotels, cafes?
Yeah. I mean, kind of one of the first things you look for when you go somewhere is, oh, do they have Wi-Fi?
Do they have Wi-Fi?
Yeah,
Do you think much about the security and privacy around those?
No, probably just the ease of getting on it, really. It's there.
Look for the one without the lock next to it. Now I just want you to use your phone as you normally would when you're sitting down having a cup of coffee on your own.
Okay.
I'm not going to do anything particularly sophisticated. I'm just going to watch the stuff that you're doing on your device to determine who you are, what you're interested in, and how I can use that in an attack against you. So I can already see that your device is connected to the wireless network, and it's already checking to see if there's a captive portal etc.
Lovely.
I see that you use Instagram.
Yes.
You are running an iPhone 5S, and you have not applied your updates. Your
Very
operating
good.
system is behind.
Yes.
You need to update because this has serious security vulnerabilities. Now, a bad guy would know this now, and they would use that to attack you. And I can start to see all these pictures of everything that you see is just scrolling past here, and I can see all the images that you're seeing on your screen. So you can see all of that just popping up as you browse. So you can see everything that you're doing is coming up here now that I know who you are and what you're interested in. And I know that you're shopping for bike accessories, and I can send you an email now and say, here's a $50 gift card. Oh, okay. Click here to redeem your gift card, send you to a page that's impersonating the site that you were just on, and capture all of your details. I want you to try and go to device. And this is a demonstration of how I can manipulate the content. Now, you've got a message. What would you normally do when you see a message like that?
Oh, we'll probably just click continue.
So do what you would normally do.
Okay.
Now, you've gone to Google on your browser, but what's come up instead?
Yahoo.
Yahoo. So
Yeah.
what I've done is I've basically made you go to Yahoo instead of Google. You think that you're going to Google.
Yeah.
It's pretty scary because it's really easy to do from a bad guy's perspective when they're in the same Wi-Fi as you.
That's so scary.
The good thing is there are ways to protect yourself against this. One of those is Norton Wi-Fi Privacy. What this does is it sets up an encrypted connection between your phone and Norton. So a bad guy on the same network, when they connect, instead of seeing all of this activity that you're doing and inferring that you're using Gmail and that you're on iPhone and you're doing all these sorts of things, what would happen is they would just see a connection from your device to Norton, and nothing else.
Nothing else. Okay.
So Mark, let's see what it's like when you're using a product like Norton Wi-Fi Privacy.
Good stuff, right? Well, on my phone, I'm going to open up the Norton Wi-Fi Privacy app. I'll click on Start My Virtual Private Network with the click of a button, and I'm away. I start browsing the internet now, maybe some news websites, car magazine. What can you see?
I can't see any of that. Unlike those other users, all of your information is being protected by Norton, by the VPN. It's all inside that encrypted tunnel. You're in a much better position than all of the other users that we've seen today.
Thank you, Nick.
Well, yeah, I think seeing it, how that actually works, gives you a better idea of what's actually going on. Obviously, how easy it is to actually steal people's information on an unprotected network. And then obviously you can see through that monitoring, once it was encrypted, there was nothing that could see. Even, let's see, couldn't even see the device information or the IP address it was trying to connect to. So it obviously is giving that level of protection. So hopefully that gives you some good insight. So that was it for the presentation. So unless there's any other questions that people had.
So that doesn't stop beacons in stores from looking at your Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, though, does it? You know, advertising beacons in stores. I mean, it shouldn't. No, I'm curious to see what you have to say.
Given this is basically a VPN product, why is it marketed as such?
As a VPN? Again, I think, you know, the usage of VPN is quite low. A lot of people don't quite understand.
So it's a marketing thing because they don't know what it is, you're trying to stealthily give them a VPN?
Obviously people, usage of Wi-Fi is quite high, so it's
Yeah.
really just trying to say, you know, this is, you know, keep your information private on a Wi-Fi
But
network.
it's interesting from a marketing perspective because the term VPN has reached absolute ubiquity amongst anyone who knows anything about it over the past decades. So why not leverage that for this product?
Well, I think it was quite surprising in that research that we did. You know, 30% didn't know what it was anyway, a VPN service. They come out in their data. And then those that chose not to use it consider it a technical product that, you know, is too difficult to use. So,
Now you've got that, you know, in conjunction with one of the most, or you would say the most trusted names in security, so surely that's the big foot in the door to get everyone who is reticent to
Look, there was a lot of discussion around the naming. You know, again, even Wi-Fi is a little bit limiting in terms of it is encrypting all the traffic, so both mobile and Wi-Fi. So,
it seems simplicity is your goal. Ease.
It is, and that's the thing. There's
Maybe when the desktop version comes, it'll have VPN in the name.
Oh, like if you look into it, we do promote it as a VPN service, but the naming of the product is obviously just trying to keep it simple. Again, for the average user that is out there connecting, that doesn't understand the technology, just tries to simplify it.
There's still 20% of people that use a VPN actively. Were there any concerns from, say, the legal team about potential compromise you get into in terms of copyright or pissing off people like rights holders, large corporates that would be concerned that you were selling a VPN? A lot of the people in the VPN market are, as you say, not trusted brands, but they're the kinds of brands that rights holders and those larger corporates are trying to shut down or block their services.
Nothing that I'm aware of through that process. I didn't see any major legal issues. And obviously, legals had a look at the service, the naming, and what we do, so are all okay.
Yeah, I guess I was going to ask the same kind of question, but I know that Netflix has kind of gone after some VPNs that have specifically marketed themselves as ways to watch US Netflix.
Yeah.
Are you worried about that?
No, look, it's not built specifically for that. You know, some people will use it for that kind of service, but it is very much, as you can see, like how easy it is to steal people's information. And this is built for protection. You know, its core usability wasn't around, you know, getting around geo-blocking. It is very much encrypting those connections. As a consequence, one of the features that you can do that. So it's not a big issue for us whether it's like Netflix did block it.
One other question. So it's one device, $30 a year. Can I put that on my phone and then personal hotspot that device to other devices and they're still in the VPN, or is that not going?
Good question. Yeah, look, we'll have to ask a question on that one.
We can try it though later today.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Mark, the federal government was talking about, lobby groups are talking about potentially banning VPN to stop anywhere else geo-blocking. Any comment on this?
This is protection for users, and obviously people are using, you know, the internet's a very useful thing. We don't want to expose people. The thing is, if people don't have access to the technology, well, we end up with a situation where a lot of people start getting compromised. So no, we think the technology is required, so we would support the use of that technology out there. Again, it's the same question as like, you know, should there be a backdoor within the product, which, again, the technology's there for a reason. People use that, people need that, individuals, governments, and so, you know, people rely on that now, so we support, you know, the technology there.
In terms of the video demo we saw with Nick there, looking at the pictures and stuff like that, how prevalent is that out there in terms of these public networks out there? Just how big is that problem?
Well, that's the thing, it's a hard thing to track, whereas threats that we see that come to the device, we can obviously capture that data and we actually see that. When someone's intercepting data on a Wi-Fi, it's not something you can actually detect, so it's hard to say how prevalent it actually is in this market. But the risk is there, and obviously, you know, it's very, like you can see how easy it was to just start stealing information. It's very hard to quantify.
Symantec and Norton have famously bundled their internet security with PCs over the years. Might we see this bundled with some smartphone vendors in the next few months as new models come out? 3 or 6 month trials?
Yeah. Look, nothing on the roadmap right now, but you never know. All right, well, thank you, everyone. Appreciate people taking the time out to come. It was a hard place to come to, so thank you so much.